Guys, what's the craziest thing that's happened in the boys' locker room that most girls wouldn't understand? We had electric hand dryers and Axe body spray. If you block the intake of the dryer, the heating element get really hot because of the lack of airflow and start to glow bright orange. Then, if you take your hand away and immediately spray Axe into the intake, a massive ball of fire shoots out the exit of the dryer. The fireball is bigger if you spray more cans at once. Had an all-day sport assessment, so every boy in my year was in the boys' locker room. Good idea to start with. Between assessments we were told to just wait in there. 5 minutes passed, and next thing we knew the teacher walked in on 2 guys lighting each other's pubes on fire and putting each other out by humping each other whilst everyone watched. Not sure if the girls were doing that. A fat kid called another small kid gay, bullying him basically. The small kid then proceeded to go to the back, pick up the changing room hoover, and then chased after the fat kid trying to suck on his man tits. It was a good day till Mr. Hoves came in. Edit. Okay, for context, this fat guy had been bullying this kid for a while and I think the kid just snapped. Although it was funny, it was also kinda scary. Imagine this little 5 feet 5 skinny goblin child carrying such a big heavy hoover while running so fast it scared this huge fat guy. Oh, and yes, he did manage to get it on his left tit. Left a nasty mark that Mr. Hove saw. They might understand IDK, but I fought my friend in the locker room. Didn't last too long before the coach walked in, but it was a pretty bloody fight. At my school you got expelled for fighting, so when the coach came in we both said it was an accident. The coach could tell it wasn't, but he just went with our story. Oh, and we were back to being friends after the fight. Someone in my older brother's class stuck a matchbook on my brother's back right above his belt and lit it on fire as a prank, I guess. My brother got a pretty serious burn at the base of his back about the size of an apple. He didn't tell anyone about it because he wasn't a snitch, but as he was getting ready for practice after school in the locker room, his coach saw it and assumed my brother was being abused. And my brother not admitting how it happened made everyone at the school assume the worst. My parents got called in, and when the teachers threatened to call the police on my dad, my brother finally told them what happened. The kid who did it was going to get expelled for, you know, setting someone on fire, but my dad was an education is the most important thing in the world kind of guy and went to bat for the kid. I think the kid ended up with 3 years of detention, but he did get to stay in the school. In high school, one of the special ed kids was in the locker room before weightlifting class. Little dude's like, "Yeah guys, you want to see this trick?" Naturally, we are all like, "Yeah man, we love to see your trick. What you got?" The hairy childlike boy immediately takes his pants off, shits on the bench and slides all the way from one end to the other. The whole bench was streaked with shit and we all got excused from that class that day. Place stank for the rest of the week and we never looked at him the same. Sneaky guy. Someone locked the doors to the shower room from the outside and at least 7 links, the English version of Axe, bottles were thrown through the doors with elastic bands tied around them, so they automatically sprayed before they locked the doors. Some kid threw up afterwards, and most people being gassed found it funny. Even the kid who threw up, being part Jewish, I didn't throw up as I'm always prepared for this situation. We had an electric razor and had a guy to shave his head. Things escalated until someone took a chunk out of a different guy's hair. Realizing as a group we had gone too far and a major injustice was committed, we all shaved our heads. Like 30 guys all shaved their heads in solidarity. We did the same thing when a guy got pegged with a rock in the back and it left a major bruise. Everyone took a rock in the back. The next week we had a pool party at school and all the guys had one big welt on the back. Our administration had no clue what we were going to do next, but worked really hard to make sure we didn't accidentally kill someone. After swimming pool, we made a free fight with everyone naked with no rules. Anyone knocked out or who lays on the ground for over 3 seconds is disqualified. I ended up 3rd after being hit by a bench, so I can relate to every shitty locker memes that have been posted. But I still don't know why we decided to do it naked and why we all agreed to it. I think it's pretty common, but we had fights with towels in the locker room. However, we got so good at it, we would actually start bleeding if we got hit. A lot of girls and teachers asked why our t-shirts had blood on them, and one time why the locker room walls were splashed in blood. We just said it was like that when we got there, and that we tripped or something like that. Anyone remember 30-hour famine? If not, it's a fundraiser a bunch of schools in Canada do where the kids go door to door asking for donations/pledges for like about a 1-month period, and at the end of it all the kids who took part get locked in my case, the school gymnasium, for 30 hours over the weekend without any food. Anyone who lasted to the very end got some sort of prize as well. Well, this one dude bought a couple 20-inch pizzas the Friday prior and stashed them in the ceiling tiles in the locker room. He then invited a select bunch of us every few hours to eat some pizza with him, because 30 hours is a long time, you guys. So yeah, I'd say pizza parties would be one of the crazier things, and for some reason I just can't imagine that happening in the girls' locker room. Messing around in the locker room, one of my teammates was pretending to try and stab me with his keys because we found out the girl he had a crush on liked me. Guys play fight a lot. I was holding his keys back by the keychain when it snapped, and before either of us could react he actually stabbed me in the face with his keys. Went right through my cheek, but surprisingly didn't hurt. I didn't realize how bad it was until I opened my mouth to ask why he was looking at me like that, and blood poured out of my mouth. Went home, put a butterfly bandage on it, went for a run with him the next day like nothing happened. It left a small scar, but it's covered by my beard now, so not a big deal. My old middle school apparently had a fight club in the boys' locker room. Lasted for several months before a kid shattered his kneecap and had to go to the hospital. The secret finally leaked out. The students had code words they would use outside of gym class too. The teachers would see these kids all red-faced and rough looking, but the kids would just say things got really intense in gym class. Proud of them. Oh, and when I was in middle school in the locker room, one guy was showing off his one nipple hair he was able to grow, and we plucked it right out. You can't have nice things. I was in high school, and I was getting ready for my soccer game after school in the locker room, but it was several hours after school ended, so no one was around, except this one other dude who was in the locker room. As I'm putting my cleats on, this guy crawls on top of the lockers, which have a few feet between them and the ceiling, and he pushes up a ceiling tile, reaches around above the tiles and pulls out a baggie of pot and offers some to me. Being the young little freshman I was, I declined, and he proceeded to smoke the weed on top of the lockers. In the high school locker room, 3 hours after school ended. When I was in school, a lot of boys either kept their locks unlocked or set their combinations after changing, so that they didn't have to deal with it after class. This setup may seem smart up until someone had decided to take all of these open locks to then latch them onto the air duct. This had went on for days until there was an occurrence of 25 boys huddling around the door of the air duct trying to figure out which lock was this, since all of them looked the same. The kid was caught and had to clean up the locker room as punishment, which was a surprising reaction from the school, since that could have been suspension. I can't say this cannot happen in a girl's locker room, but this was my most interesting story about boys' locker rooms other than naked old men, dried up condoms in the lost and found, and the stains that are obviously piss. Our school rugby team won some national tournament, and for some reason they all decided to shower completely naked with each other to celebrate. Then proceeded to have a go at me for being the only one to not join in. I mean, they were doing some pretty raunchy stuff in there. I'm good, thanks. If you swing that way then sure, go ahead. The bullies would call other kids gay and grab them and forcibly jerk them off. Well, we had enough of it, so we decided to fight fire with fire. None of the bullied were big enough to overpower the bullies, so we had a plan. When the bullies started their gay routine, we all started jerking ourselves off, getting ahead of the game, so to speak. You can't force jerk a person who is jerking themselves. Well, the bullies got mad and started jerking each other off, saying that we weren't good enough to get jerked off by them. Long story short, we all ended up ejaculating on the foreign exchange student who didn't speak English well and seemed really confused. Who I got a couple. One dumb kid tried growing a pot plant in a peanut butter jar. Didn't work. Plants need sunlight. Who old guessed? Another kid had his locker broken into and someone jerked off into his stuff. His walk of shame to the pet teacher was something to see. Nice kid. Smart. Wrestler. No enemies. Never found out who did it or why. Liquid ass in the hand dryers. Bad idea. Shower traps. Soap all over the entrance so you fall. Undyed shampoo in the worst places. Looks too much like semen, so people would put it everywhere or slap people with a handful of it. Lots of slap wars. Just 2 or more guys taking turns slapping each other's chest or back until only one was left. We were getting ready after aquatics class and this one macho guy asked everyone to rank each other on cuteness. Everybody surprisingly went along with it and began debating. It was the most wholesome exchange amongst soaked, almost naked teenagers anybody can ever witness. NGL being ranked in the top 5 out of 26 was pretty cool. As a girl, I didn't witness this one, but our gym teacher told us about it. All the boys in my gym class collectively smeared the entire locker room with deodorant. Every wall. Every surface. I've always wondered what was going through their heads that made them all decide to do that. I remember whenever the guys were all jacked up and full of testosterone, they'd slam the lockers which would create a chain effect across the locker room. Pretty soon all the lockers were being slammed and we'd be acting like there was a riot going on. We were loud af until the gym coach came in. I still am curious what the girls' locker room is like in there. People would throw shit over the locker rows if someone needed something. So like if I ran out of deodorant I'd say anyone got deodorant and sure enough one would be chucked over the aisles. Anyway, one day this happened and I called for one and 2 sticks of deodorant came flying over, but then right after a full turkey sandwich smacked into the wall behind me, someone threw a turkey sandwich across the locker room. We all were relatively tame in my school. We just changed and didn't give each other shit about each other's bodies. If one person was skinnier or fatter than everyone else, we didn't mock them. We literally didn't mention it. We just chatted and swapped stories about our weekends. I guess it was weird because we treated it like nothing different than hanging out. Every now and then gave each other encouragement, like you're getting faster running the mile, or nice job in the dodgeball game dude. We were a supportive bunch my years in that locker room. My brother's year had some dumb stuff like towel whipping and pantsings though. We made jousting tournaments. After practice we would take the biggest guys on the team to be the horses and they would give a piggyback ride to someone else. They would be holding a pole vaulting pole as a joust in the right hand and a plyo box as a shield in the left hand. The horses would then sprint toward each other and last man standing won. We did this for a few weeks without incident, but the most valuable player almost got hurt right before championships and we stopped real quick because there was gonna be no way to explain that to our coach. Oh boy, a lot. I remember in particular this one kid was I guess bullied quite a lot just by people shouting oh well in a funny voice and always saying shotgun keeper because he said it once when playing football and everyone just took the piss. Other times they would laugh at tight boxers and called them hot pants. Once some guys, when I was 14, just started watching porn as a joke. In retrospect a lot of bullying and banter just happened. It was pretty fucked up. Edit. I just remembered also there was these showers no one used because we weren't required and people would just randomly turn it on to get people wet. The teachers would go apeshit about that. After a swimming lesson we were all drying off and getting changed back into uniform, chatting, going about the day, until one kid bursts out of a bathroom stall bare ass naked. Everyone stares at him for a moment until he dives and slides across the wet floor screaming I came in like a wrecking ball. We all start cheering him on until there are several guys in various stages of undress sliding around on the soaking wet tiled floors screaming the words to pop songs. It was short-lived as soon a teacher came in with the most baffled, shocked look on his face and told us to just get up, grow up and get changed. I'm sure that incident has given him a few more grey hairs. There was a pretty chubby guy in my weightlifting class. Yes, weightlifting was an elective you could actually get credits for that mentioned he could do what he called the back fart. Obviously when you tell a locker room of 30 guys you can do a back fart you can't not show them. He proceeds to get in the shower and get his back and the floor wet, put some soap on the floor, lay on his back, lift his feet in the air like he was about to do crunches, and lift his body up and down. The wet floor would cause suction when he lifted up, and when he let his body down it would force the air out and make the loudest fart sound I've ever heard in my life. There was also the guy that swore since like the 3rd grade his penis curved to the left and looked like the letter J. Finally his senior year on the last day of school we tell him he has to prove it. You can imagine the teacher's face when he walked in and saw a group of guys staring at a dick that looked like the top of a coat hanger. I don't know if this is the craziest thing, but it was crazy for me, a female. In 8th grade I realized I liked girls, and I came out. Changing in the girls' locker room before gym class became hilarious though. Girls would bully me, accuse me of staring at them while they were changing, chase me around the rows of lockers screaming shit at me. It was rough. One day this behemoth of a bitch Chelsea told me all the girls had voted and they thought I should change in the boys' locker room. So I collected my stuff and did just that. Several gym classes went by before the gym teacher caught wind and I wound up in detention for a week. The guys were all super nice to me and surprisingly mature about having a girl encroach on their territory. One of them later became a lifelong best friend of mine, and I later found out he would threaten to beat any of the guys up who had a problem with it or who tried to sneak a peek. I guess the craziest thing I've seen in a boys' locker room is dudes comparing dicks and lots of Axe body spray wars. Oh yeah, I've always wanted to talk about this. So on the last day of our swimming unit, one guy brought a bottle of soap and poured it all over the middle of the locker room, then put water there too. Then a bunch of the guys started sliding on their stomach naked through the locker room. I didn't because I'm not super confident in my body, so I was just like nope, but it was the weirdest thing to just see bunch of naked guys sliding past you on the floor. The concoction, a rolled bag of banana chips with water, deodorant, moldy garlic bread, old tortellini, some random person's shirt in it. It was 2 months old when we got put for summer. They poured some of it out of the bag and it hardened like concrete. You could smell it as soon as you entered the locker room. It smelled so bad as free smelling it, its scent stayed in your nose for hours. I will post an image of it later.